Okay, well, great. Well, I thought that, for the most part, we got out of the Tulane game pretty well, injury-wise. Got to play a lot of guys again. That's always a positive. And now moving forward to Notre Dame this week, certainly it's a huge step up in competition. It's really a tough place to go in there and play. They have a great home field advantage, a lot of tradition, and some really good football players. So we're looking forward to the challenge of going in. It'll be our first road game of the year, and we'll have about probably 30 to 40 guys who haven't traveled before, so it ought to be interesting to see how they can react to the first road game.
Coach, looking at Notre Dame on film, what really sticks out to you watching them on film?
I think their athleticism. They've got some really good individual players, but overall their offensive line, I think, is pretty good. They're really big, long. Defensively, they run well. So they've got good players. They've recruited well. They always have good players.
With the change of quarterback, do you think that'll affect how they approach the game offensively?
Maybe a little, but I don't think you can change much. I'm pretty sure they'll just run their system. That's what they do. They've been a lot quarterback run game. I don't know how much that'll still be a part of it, but they're not going to get away from it totally because it fits his MO. That's what he was recruited for, and that's what he fits. So, may try to rely more on the offensive line, and they've got one of the best receivers in the country, so he's got a lot of weapons around him.
I imagine you have to be pretty curious just to see kind of how your team responds, since this is a pretty huge leap in terms of competition from what you've seen in the first two games.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a step up. We just got to go do our thing. It doesn't matter. It's as much about us as it is who we play. So we've got to go and be dialed in. We weren't as sharp to start this game as we were the first game. So, the first game on the road, the older guys who have played and been in that situation, we need them to step to the forefront and be leaders this week. We need to have a great week of practice.
You've coached against Notre Dame before. Is there something special about the stage of going up there, playing in South Bend, and is it like any big game?
They got a lot of tradition, a lot of history, and they've had some really good teams. But it's just like going to play anybody else. You got to get ready to go play. We never made a big deal about going there to play. It's just like going to Clemson to play or going to somewhere else. You'll be playing against good players. But it ought to be fun. You ought to embrace it. Chance to compete.
You said Tulane tried to take the B back out of the game. How did you see Patrick and Marshall meet that challenge? How did they play?
Well, they play within themselves. I mean, it's a team game, and when the guy came down, we were not blocking and took him. There's not much they can do except get took. So it's just part of the game. When they got a chance to run the ball, they ran hard, did some things on plays where we were going to make sure they had the ball. But the one good thing about this group the last couple of years especially, but really I'd have to say we really haven't had many selfish guys. I mean, our guys are pretty much team-oriented, and they want to try to do, they know that sooner or later it'll be their turn. And when it's their turn, they got to be ready. So, they've got to roll. Even if somebody's taking you every play on the option, you've still got to roll. You got to run it up in there hard and make sure that they take you and don't come off on somebody else.
When you're evaluating guys for your system, do you have a catalog in your mind of former players and say, this guy reminds me of him and he'll fit into my system?
Maybe sometimes you might say that, but not really. We just kind of recruit the way everybody else does. I mean, we just try to find the best players and go recruit them. We don't get hung up sometimes on height and length, and I'm really bad. If I see a guy who's a good player on tape, then I think he's a good player. I don't care that he didn't run but 4.8 at the combine or didn't get a high Nike Spark score or whatever. I mean, it's like and sometimes you hit on guys like that and sometimes you don't, but the biggest thing to me about recruiting, and that's why I get such a kick out of trying to rank, nobody knows how hard those kids are going to work when they get to school and how much better they're going to be. Because nobody stays the same. They're all either going to get better or they're going to get worse. And nobody knows how hard they're going to work. You know, when you move up in competition, if, you know, you've always been the fastest and the biggest and this, that, and the other, and you don't have any work ethic, it's not going to work too well for you when the level moves up and everybody around you is big and fast. And so I think sometimes we get a lot of guys with chips on their shoulder. Sometimes we get the guys that are bigger and faster, and they're good players. So it's just kind of a combination, you know. But I think that's true for everybody in recruiting except maybe 10 or 11 teams.
Shaq Mason, I remember when people said, oh, his arms are too short, he'll never play D1.
Right.
Now he's in the NFL. Is he one of those guys?
Sure. And he's a guy who, we had him in camp, and he was bulldozing people in camp, and we knew he was a good player, and we offered him. And he worked his tail off. I mean, he didn't come in and just go, okay, I got a scholarship. I think he played with a chip on his shoulder and wanted to show everybody he was a good player. And that's a great example. I mean, he was a guy that was 6 foot, 6'1", and a lot of people won't recruit those linemen that tall.
That victory by Navy at Notre Dame was, you know, historic. It had been a long time.
Right.
Was that still just another victory for you, or was there something special about finally getting over the hump with? Because I know I know a lot of players and stuff like
We
that.
finally won the game. We'd almost beaten them a couple times before, and we just didn't get it done. And it was, you know, you got a monkey off their back. And then I think 2 years later they beat them again. So it was like, anytime you have a long streak like that, it's good to win. But honestly, it wasn't. It was just a game, you know, regular season game.